This is a real fun episode of the Speed Secrets podcast, talking about fine-tuning one's abilities with anything from making YouTube videos to driving cars, with my guest, Mr. Smoking Tire himself, Matt Farah. We also get into how to adapt to different cars, the most important corners on a track, and some fancy footwork discussion. Hey everyone, I'm really excited about today's show because today I've got Matt Farah on the show. And man, if you don't know who Matt Farah is, I don't know where the heck you've been. Matt's kind of everywhere. Matt's the guy he's the man behind the Smoking Tire podcast, the YouTube channel. I think I saw that you have, 178 million views or something like that on YouTube. Is that right, Matt?
Hi, Ross. I haven't checked the statistics on that. I didn't realize there'd be a quiz in your podcast. Hang on. I don't know. Let me look.
Well, that's
if you looked and that's what it says, you could probably believe it. But
I thought I'd go onto your website last night and I read that somewhere and I'm going, wow, that's pretty cool. I think I have 78 views on my YouTube channel and I thought, that's pretty good.
Well, you know what, man? I mean, I have been making videos. Let's see. I made my first YouTube video in 2006. So literally like 3 months, probably 4 months after YouTube started. And so it's just after 12 years, it adds up.
Yeah. And I guess, I should officially welcome you to the show. I thought
I'd be here, man. I'm a fan of you.
Well, I'm a fan of you, and I thought I'd throw out the welcome mat. So,
thanks.
No play.
Yeah, did you find any other statistics that I would find interesting?
Let's see. Statistically, I don't know.
Here. You want I hope you haven't heard me rudely clicking in the background, but I wanted to fact check your fact check since here we are. I have the latest numbers. Apparently, you found a figure I wrote a while ago because I have 235 million views on the Smoking Tire YouTube channel.
Well, I don't even know how to count from 178 to 235 million, so that's pretty impressive.
I should update my homepage.
There you go.
I think the key is to it's the opposite of what you do on the racetrack. Don't focus on the numbers. On the racetrack, you want to focus on the numbers. Data is good. For me, I am not of the school of really analyzing the data. Some people are. They love to really analyze. Okay, this video did 5% better than other videos, and so I'm going to just focus on doing more of that. For me, it's always just I'm going to do the thing I want to do, and I've been very fortunate enough that for at least a good portion of that period of time, a bunch of people followed along. Well,
and I'm curious because I've done the same thing. I mean, I've never really done what I should do. I've always done what I wanted to do. I guess that's kind of my motto for life kind of thing. But why is it that so many people follow you? I mean, and don't take that the wrong way. I mean, I'm kind of
I don't know.
It's not like I'm looking at you going like, why would anybody follow you? No, I get it.
Someone, one of their friends will be playing the Smoking Tire podcast, and they think Seth Rogen has a podcast, and so they just follow that. And it takes them 4 or 5 episodes to realize I'm not Seth Rogen. But no, I don't know. I guess there are certain people that are good teachers, I guess, and I don't know about you, but I don't like the word expert. I don't like to be an expert. There's a lot of pressure in that word, and I don't have a degree in cars. But I'm a student of cars, and I guess a good relayer of information. I'm a good explainer of things, and I guess, I don't know. I guess what I find is that a lot of people seem to know someone that is me. There seems to be one of me in like every town where it's like your trusted, chubby, bald best friend who just calls it like it is. I get so many emails and stuff that are like, dude, you remind me of my friend Kenny, and I'm like, yeah, like there's one of me in every town. I just, I guess, figured out how to take my area of knowledge, which is predominantly cars, and turn a camera on it. Yeah.
Well, and maybe that's part of it, is not being the expert. In a roundabout way, you become the expert.
Yeah, I'm a student,
Yeah.
I'm a student of cars. And I'm a highly educated student, if you want to make an analogy, I'm at like the PhD level at this point as far as a student, but I'm a student nonetheless, and students can also be teachers. But I make mistakes, and I mean, maybe not so much when I was younger, in my 20s when I was getting started, I was a little more pigheaded. But if I make mistakes, like I own them, and I try and correct them, and move forward, and not dwell on being perfect. But there's an authenticity to that. The fact I do a video series, the thing that I'm probably the most known for at this point, called One Take. And the reason it's called that is because it's first impression drives, but I do it literally in one take. I don't edit. I start the camera and I talk for 15 minutes. And if there's anything I do that is a talent, that, I'm just a normal guy who happens to like cars, but if there's anything I can do, I could talk about what's happening in a vehicle for 15 minutes without repeating myself or sounding too stupid. And I suppose if there's any talent I have, and I can do that driving at 80 or 90% of my race pace. So if I have a talent, I suppose that's it.
Well, and I think that's what makes it that to me. So when I watch your shows, what I like about it is that it's not polished. It's not, and again, don't take that the wrong way, but
no, it's fine. That's what a lot of people like about it. The irony is I spent a lot of years trying to make it very polished, only to, have that be totally the wrong model. But it was the recognition of that, and the changing from polished, we're going to make mini Top Gear over here, to, let's do what basically amounts to a fucking Forza Twitch stream, but with a real car. That's really the thing was we're going to make video game videos, but with real cars. Like, that's the actual business model for that. So I'm shocked that it worked, but it worked better than I ever could have hoped, because it gave me 3 years of very strong income.
and actually, and I want to talk about all the different cars you drive and how you adapt and all that kind of stuff. But actually, you make a really interesting point there, and I wonder if, like, is it the same as driving? If you had not worked at polishing your act at some point,
right?
Would it be as good as it is today?
Oh, hell no. Hell no. No. Just because I have a talent doesn't mean I haven't practiced it. You know what I mean? If if you want to see the raw talent, you can find videos of me from 2007. You know what I mean? And you can see what that looks like. But believe you me, I don't go back and watch that stuff. I would be horrified if you showed me any video of mine from 2007. You know what I mean? So yeah. I can admit that I was not good. I wasn't like a horror show. I've seen a couple of my earlier videos, and I was, it's not a bad analogy. That's okay. There was certainly like moments of decent work in there. But yeah, no, it's obviously a very raw back then. The biggest difference, swear to God, had nothing to do with, it did have to do with just doing more driving and talking, but the biggest difference was in 2013, I could no longer afford to pay an editor. It got too expensive to pay an editor, and I had to learn how to edit. And so learning Premiere Pro and learning what an editor needs from a host to make a good video, because by 2013, I knew what a good video was supposed to look like. I just didn't know how to run the program and push the buttons to make it look like that. And I didn't know what a host should be giving an editor to really optimize that editor's performance. So by becoming the editor, I became an exponentially better host. So most people who hit me up and they say, how do I get your job? By far the most common email I get is, how do I get your job, or variants on how do I get your job? Right. And I usually am happy to give them the short version of that. But the first thing I say is you learn Adobe Premiere Pro or Final Cut, or I say you learn how to edit video, and they immediately go, wah wah, like the plan was going to be, post up outside Sergio or the Larry Webster's office or something, or some miracle into the automotive thing, or get this degree in journalism or whatever. Like no, like learn how to edit video, and if you can. Because the storytelling is all in the editing. By becoming the editor, I learned how to be a better host, and that ultimately led me to become a good enough host where I no longer had to be edited.
Yeah. So basically, you were lazy, and you wanted to make your editing job easier for yourself, so you became a better host.
Yes, because YouTube it's not that I'm lazy. It's that YouTube is a volume model. It's McDonald's. It's not Peter Luger's. If you treat YouTube like Peter Luger's, you're just burning money. I mean, literally, you're burning it. You have to make my competition in the automotive YouTube space is literally people who do Twitch streams from their couch. Like they don't even have to do anything. They just turn it on, and like their Xbox already does like everything else. It's like turn Xbox on, blah 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 blah, turn Xbox off. Like for me to make a video at a minimum, I have to drive like 90 minutes from my house each way. Like there are legitimate time and costs, and so you have to really, really do math. It's not sexy or glamorous by any means, but that's what you have to do. And so that's how I went down that road. So it wasn't so much laziness as it was the very intense pursuit of micromanagement and efficiency, because by doing these one-take videos, the way I got to that conclusion was really to start from my average video revenue and work backwards to go, okay, the average video only gets 200,000 views, and 200,000 views is like $500. So, after taxes. So like, I'm only going to do $500 worth of work. So that meant stripping out editing, stripping out music, stripping out fancy anything, and shooting videos in batch. I would have fans meet me at, 6 a.m. in the canyons, 6 cars at a time, and go boom, 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 boom. And I could have 6 videos done in a day. And that's now a week and a half worth of content in one day, which would lead me time to pursue television or writing or whatever in the rest of the time. So it's really just heavy micromanagement of my time.
And, there are all sorts of analogies that kind of tie in there to driving, right? I mean,
of course, yeah.
The best drivers make it look easy. And yet, you look at all the stuff that goes on behind the scenes, and it's that polishing totally. of the talent through the years. And then, it's editing your driving, all that kind of stuff. So it's all the same kind of stuff, I guess.
And the data analysis, my new favorite thing with driving is data analysis. I just did a American endurance racing event this past weekend with Jack Baruth.
Yeah, you got to tell me about that.
Yeah, at NCM. And we had, do you know Kevin Madsen?
Yep.
So Kevin was there. He was on our team as well, and he brought the AIM solo system with the video and whatnot. So Kevin has coached me in the EXR cars, and he also coached me in those crazy cross kart things that are the best vehicles I've ever driven. The 750 cross kart was ridiculous, so fun, the most fun I've ever had. So he was there, and we had an MX-5 Cup, an older one. And NCM is a tough track. It's 23 corners in 3 miles. And I'd run maybe 10 laps there in my whole life. So having him there and being able to look at the data of literally like, you've got 5 more miles an hour in turn 7. You've got, you really don't need to brake here. And, because he was racing the car as well. So it was his line against my line. And he really helped me take some serious time off between the first and second races. It was awesome. I was so happy to have that stuff.
So I got to ask a question. So how many different cars do you drive in a typical year?
So this year will be less than other years by design. In 2007, I reviewed like 240 cars. I was
Wow.
2017. Excuse, did I say seven? 2017, I reviewed 250 cars. 2016, it was like 230 something, and it was over 215 as well. But I mean, I got so burnt out. I mean, you drive that many cars, like you just, it's like drugs, you know what I mean? It's like being a junkie, the kind of insanity you need to be interested in it after driving that many cars. How is it possible to be interested in a normal car? And so I totally burnt myself out on doing that. But yeah, I mean, I was like the volume king for a couple of years. Yeah.
Well, and that's where what I want to talk about is, do you adapt to the car, or do you see how well the car adapts to you? Because that to me is no different than a Lewis Hamilton or a Scott Dixon or whoever, when they're in test driver mode in a test session, their
Right.
job is do not adapt. Drive the
Right.
car the way you want.
Be a robot. Yeah.
And then you figure out what the car needs. But
Totally.
when it gets into the race, it's like, well, forget adapting or forget trying to get the car to adapt to me. I have to adapt to the car. So I'm always curious, like when you're testing cars, what do you do? Do you just drive your style? And
I actually have a really, really perfect answer for you, which is the primary difference between me and Lewis Hamilton, or me and any racing driver, is that it is the racing driver's job to make anything that guy gets in, or girl gets in, go as fast as it will go. And the car itself is a mostly disposable item, right? The object is a lap time.
Absolutely.
And the car is disposable. The difference between me and a racing driver is that every time I drive those cars, like all those 600 cars I drove in the last 3 years, the great majority of those cars are privately owned cars. And the great majority of those videos are filmed on public roads. And so it is my responsibility to provide an entertaining sports car experience that will not result in me having to write a very nice person a check. And the idea of writing a check to a racing driver is almost absurd, because that's a consequence of racing. But to me, I'm here to make a video, and if people are bringing their own cars, every time I get into one of those cars, I have to be prepared to write a check. So my driving in all of those videos is incredibly measured. You don't hear tire squeal. You don't see me crossing double yellows, and not to say I adhere to every single posted speed limit. But what you won't ever see is me pushing the limits of a personally owned car beyond. It's the same reason I couldn't be a Lewis Hamilton, or even a Kevin Madsen, or even, a really, really good club racer, is because, I think the reason I have my job, and part of the reason I'm on your show, is because I don't have a habit of crashing cars. And if I do, I don't have a habit of leaving people holding the bag. I recently had not to like brag, but I recently had my first ever car to car contact on a racetrack. It was actually on an HPDE day, which is super embarrassing. But there was a little bit of damage on another person's car, and I paid for it. And that's not a normal thing that people do, even at track days. But that's sort of the consequences of being the famous guy who drives cars, is you have to accept responsibility beyond. If you just heard that through my computer, I'm sorry. Accept responsibility beyond, what a normal driver has to accept, Do
you mind sharing that story just as a learning experience?
Yeah, expensive lesson, but there's sirens going by outside.
Cool.
Expensive lesson, but there's no school for what I do. My quote school has consisted of 10 years of staggered expensive lessons.
All right.
Definitely this is you can't go to journalism school or whatever. If you went to film school, I went to school for photography, so that helps. I can use a camera. I have an eye for it, that to say, you know what I mean? I have a degree in photography, so that definitely helps. If you wanted my job, I would say absolutely do not get a degree in journalism, get a degree in video. In video and video editing, that will serve you far better in this industry than a degree in journalism, unless you want to write, in which case, yeah. I don't have any special training for writing. Writing is my favorite thing to do, but the only reason I think I can write is because I can talk, and when I write, I pretty much just write like I talk. And so I have achieved a goal of when people read my pieces, they tend to read it in my voice, which gets me a lot further than if I had to actually create a prose from someone who didn't already have sort of a known orating voice.
And I think that's that's what makes the best writers, I think.
It certainly helps. I mean, it does, because I don't have some really crazy vocabulary, and I'm not super well read like Jack Baruth, where I can drop some insane literary bomb,
Right.
He's sort of my inspiration for wanting to write, and it's fun to get to race with him, because I typically I don't listen. I'm not that fast. I'm an okay driver. I'm decent, but I don't read anyone's reviews unless I know for a fact they can beat me around a racetrack. And Jack's one of 4 or 5 people in my business who I'm certain can. So I read him.
So how do you adapt to? So first of all, I mean, what I heard was you respect cars.
I respect cars, and I respect the people who bring the cars to me, especially if they're privately owned cars. So to adapt to cars, I work my way up, whether it's a race car or whether it's a street car. I work my way up. If you watch my videos, in pretty much all of them, the way I drive at the beginning of the video and the way I drive at the end of the video, I go a little quicker, a little more aggressive, and with more confidence at the end of the video, because I've been spending the last 15 minutes practicing, while talking. If I'm driving a press car, and I have more time with the car than just these 15 minutes, I get that out of the way beforehand, and if I'm at a new racetrack, I certainly like to familiarize myself with the track. But yeah, I adapt to the car, I think, as best I can. I adjust my footwork. I adjust my timing of the clutch and the heel towing. I really think about, in the first few minutes, how much steering input is required. And stuff like that. And there's certain cars that make me really, really nervous. But no, I do not make cars adjust to me. I have to adjust to the car almost always.
It's so satisfying to see you on video heel and toe downshifting, and because I see so many.
Dude, I was at the track. I mean, our pit at NCM was right at the end of the front straight, where people are going from 5th to 4th gear into that fast bus stop, turn 1.
Yep.
And the amount of clutch dragging in an endurance race, I'm like, what are these people doing? How are these cars even finishing this race? Yeah. It was unbelievable. I think the best thing I ever saw was that Senna heel toe video that was real early. I don't remember if I saw it on YouTube or maybe it was even Street Fire or something like that. It was like the Senna video and then the best motoring. It was all about that pedal cam on best motoring. And I learned to heel toe on that. And once you get that right, it takes a long time to practice that. I spent a long time practicing heel toeing. And one of my other small little talents is being able to get into any car, and I'm sure you can as well, and being able to figure out that clutch and rev match timing within 2 or 3 corners.
Yep.
And that's such an important skill. I mean, it's such an important skill, because once you get that, now you're never worried about a misshift upsetting the car's balance. You know what I mean? You can, if you can match revs, you can always keep the car balanced, even if you have to make an adjustment at the worst possible time. In that race we just had this weekend, there was, through that bus stop corner, NCM turns, I don't know if it's 1 and 2 or 1 and 1A, how they call it, but it's a big bus stop like they have at Daytona. At the end of the front straight, and you enter it in fourth gear, and you can either go down to third if you're trying to be very aggressive, or you can keep it in fourth if you're trying to you bog the engine a little bit but maybe save some fuel economy, or you've got a lot of entry speed. And there are a couple times where, like, right at that second apex, a downshift to third helps you make that pass. But if you can't rev match properly, the car is super loaded up and you're going fast, you could have a big spin there at a really fast section if you're not matching that properly. So I think that's a super valuable skill. And when I see people in like the comments are like, what, you heel toe on the street? It's like, no, that's just driving. That's just what's called driving. It's not, there's no difference. It's the same. It's always that.
I love that answer. That's just driving. That's perfect. And I agree. I mean, it's like, well, how can you not? Like,
that's just driving.
I can't not heel and toe.
I know exactly. That's just what the feet do, because that's how I've programmed them.
Yeah. So I mean,
do you use your actual toe and your heel? Like, do you have small feet or big feet? I'm a left side, right side.
Yeah, absolutely. And in fact, I think that's pretty much the only way, because for me, your heel needs to be on the floor the whole time.
Right.
Because then you're pivoting at your heel and you've got better control that way.
I completely agree. But like, I have really wide feet, but like, I'm so annoyed that like, why is every driving shoe meant for like a Formula One car? Like, why isn't there a GT car driving shoe that's meant for left side, right side heel toeing? Like, has nobody figured this out? Like, because every time I drive a car on the street, I'm in my sneakers, right? I'm in my Pumas, I'm in my New Balances, I'm left side, right side. But now I've got to go in a race, right? Now I'm heel toeing at the limits of braking, and I have to wear these dumb fireproof driving shoes that are designed to fit in the cockpit of like a Formula Ford, but I have a GT car pedal box, and I have to drive like those Japanese guys on Best Motoring with their actual toe and heel, and I drive like shit for 5 laps until I reprogram my body. Like, why does nobody make a GT car driving shoe, Ron? Seriously.
There you go. The smoking tire driving shoe. There you go. That's your next.
Any driving shoe company that wants to make the smoking tire GT car driving shoe, if you're listening, get a hold of me. I am on board with it.
But having said that, I mean, I've got skinny feet. I got skinny little legs. I got skinny feet, and I don't have any problem ever heel and toe any car. Now, the advantage that I have is you drive a couple hundred cars a year. For many, many years, I'd probably drove, I'm not going to say a couple hundred, but I probably drove at least 100 or 150 or so. So you get really good at adapting, and I think that's kind of the point of this.
Yeah, no, I mean, I could do it. I can do it. Like, I'm not like really complaining, but the truth is, I think that for most, people who just race trackified versions of normal cars, the average driving shoe is substantially narrower than the average sneaker size for size. And I don't think that's a necessary thing because they're designed the same way, like for pedals and brakes and stuff from like the 70s. Like our systems work differently now, so.
And I agree. So what's interesting is, I'll go to a track event. I'll go to it's at a HPD event just last week, and I walk around the paddock and there are people wearing their racing shoes, and I show up and I'm wearing, I don't know, I like these Olakai shoes that are.
You're rocking like the Hawaiian surf shoes.
Exactly. And
like Jimmy Buffett at a track day.
Exactly. And they are a little bit wider, a little bit flatter. And it's easier for me to adapt to whatever car I happen to hop into than if I'm driving a proper or if I'm using a proper racing shoe. So it's interesting. I think, we think we should be wearing these fancy racing shoes because it'll make us faster. I'm pretty sure a racing shoe adds half a second to your lap time, doesn't it? But I don't know which direction.
I only wear racing shoes if I absolutely have to. And I actually, I just discovered, I'm so excited about, New Balance makes a fireproof like pit crew shoe that's pretty much like the same like old dad sneakers that I like to wear, but Nomex. And I actually think I can wear them racing. So I'm super excited for my next race. I'm going to get Nomex New Balances, and I have solved this problem, sort of. The problem is, can I get them past tech? I don't know if they're gonna believe. No, dude, I swear they're fireproof. I swear.
Well, let's test them.
Yeah, right. Flame. Does someone have a Tesla flamethrower?
There you go. Yeah. So again, I mean, you're adapting to all these cars all the time. What's the driving technique that you focus on? Because I know you're a driver. Deep down inside, you're a driver.
Not even deep down inside, outside too. Okay. I literally have the words clutch and gas tattooed on my calves.
Okay, so what is it that you focus on in your driving?
It's that question has changed throughout the years. For a long time, it was focusing on footwork. Now my body pretty much responds to different cars automatically in terms of footwork. Now what I'm really focusing on is the bravery / stupidity angle. That's kind of where I'm at now. The difference typically between me and a guy like Kevin, to keep dropping his name because he's a great guy and because I raced with him all this past weekend, so I have a direct correlation in my mind.
I need to get Kevin on the show so we can talk about you.
Well, I can plug. He's coming on my podcast later today, actually.
Oh, okay.
And when you come to Los Angeles, you have to come on my show, by the way.
Sure.
But a lot of the difference between me, when I look at the data, the corner exit speeds between me and a Kevin are the same. I'm getting on the throttle where I should be, and I'm using the amount of throttle that I should be. And in certain corners, the cornering speeds are the same as well. The difference typically is the speeds through what I'll call the bravery corners. The corners where the ass could get real loose at a really high speed. Where my instinct is to do a brake, where his instinct will be to do a lift, to just shift that weight a little bit forward and then turn in, and be confident with a certain level of ass waggle at 100 plus miles an hour. And so for me, looking at that data, driving back to back with a pro and him physically demonstrating in this car, no, this is possible. Is extremely helpful for me right now. I am not at the point where I can make those decisions on my own.
That's interesting. Everybody goes, oh, the most important corner on the track is the one that leads on the longest straightaway.
That's true.
Generally, that corner is not very fast. If you look at most racetracks, and it's not that difficult. The corner that makes the biggest difference are the big, fast, scary ones.
Yeah. Yes.
That's what separates the men from the boys, the big girls from the little girls. It's that's what separates. So I think you bring up a really, really good point is, and I've been saying this for years is that, don't get overly caught up on this. The most important one is the one that leads on long straight. Focus on the big, fast, scary ones. Because if you get that one right, I'll guarantee you'll be faster than most drivers.
Yeah, see, on this particular track and with this particular data, the corners onto the big long straights, Kevin and I had the same speeds, the same entry speeds and the same exit speeds, because they were not particularly difficult corners. They were 90 or 120 degree corners, where with a Miata on 200 treadwear tires, you don't need to be Ayrton Senna to find the limit. The biggest differences were at NCM, where at turn I think it's 5, which is a big, fast, it's probably 80 miles an hour, fourth gear.
That right-hand sweeping corner?
Right-hand sweeping corner. Yeah. And so I was actually, using some brake there because I'm not brave. And he just did a quick lift. And because he pulled up his video with his data, I was like, oh, man, I can do that. And my next session, I didn't quite get to the 0 brakes, but I got to a lot less brakes. And the other, that's pretty much it. We on the quote important corners, the ones before the straightaways, we were pretty even, but the corners that were actually more important, he was way ahead of me because of experience and bravery.
And some of that experience is just, it's the confidence to know that I can get this car way out of shape and I'm going to bring it back, right? It's you get crossed up in a big fast corner and it kind of goes to what I was talking about earlier. In your job is not to overdrive the car a lot, right?
Correct.
Because
It's not. It's occasionally it is. One of my favorite thing to do. My new favorite thing to do is endurance racing, which I've been having so much fun doing. But my other favorite thing to do is drifting. It's so fun. And I don't know, Formula Drift, whether you like it or not as a sport, I don't really care. I think it's fun. But the act of drifting a car is so fun. And you learn so much from drifting. And so when I get to do that, I love that. And even in the instances with this Miata, there's a couple of situations. We had some real oversteery tires in practice on Friday. And so I was doing a lot of third gear slides, which was really fun in the Miata. It wasn't fast by any means, but it was enjoyable. And in second gear and third gear, it's not a problem. But in fourth gear and fifth gear is where it really separates the pros from the amateurs. When you get comfortable recovering a slide at 80 or 90 or 100 without having that brief panic moment, that's when you're really there.
And you touched on earlier that you tend to you creep up on it, you incrementally get faster and faster and faster. And if you took Lewis Hamilton and you stuck him into any car, his first response would be, I'm going to go and overdrive the car everywhere and then back it off and incrementally slow it down, smooth it out, tidy it up.
He doesn't have to take responsibility for his crashes financially. I do. And I don't have what it takes to be a racing driver. I race for fun. And I want to improve my lap times. I want to get faster, but I don't go for that last 3% that the real racing drivers will go for it. I've had a couple of crashes. I've hit the wall. I've never had a street crash, knock wood. But I've had a couple of crashes on the track that have been not enough to say that I won't ever have another crash or something like that, but I don't have that last little percentage. So what I do, my job on the endurance racing team, which is 4 drivers, is I'll go out and I'll run a lap that's maybe a second off of what Jack can do, or a second and a half, maybe 2 off of what Kevin can do at like a 2.5 minute track. But I'll run, I ran 6 231s in a row. I'll run the same number. I'm a metronome.
Yeah.
And not only am I a metronome, I'm a wall. Like, you have to be really good or have a bunch of horsepower to get by me. Because if I'm not blocked in, like, I don't really fuck up. Like, I can run lap after lap after lap after lap like a metronome, and you're like, oh my God, do you know Matt Busby?
Oh yeah,
at NCM?
Yeah.
Okay, Busby will love this. He's a great dude at NCM. So I hadn't been there in a long time. Matt Busby takes me out. He's like, do you want me to show you the track? I'm like, please. He takes me out. Does like 3 great laps in this Camaro they've got laying around there. And I'm like, wow, fucking this dude can wheel, right? And he's showing me the line and through the, the sinkhole, the big bowl they've got there.
Yep.
He goes, here's how you drive a line so no one will ever be able to pass you through here. And I go, okay, cool. He shows it to me, whatever. We go out on the race on Saturday, and Busby's in a spec E30. Well, I pass him at the start. I take the start, and I pass him at the start, and I hold him off for 22 laps, and he can't get by me. And every time I go through the sinkhole, I see in the mirror, and I hear in my head go, here's how you go through this corner so no one will ever get by you. And I held him off using his own driving techniques for 20 laps. And when we got out of the car, and I saw him in the pits, and he was like, dude, that was awesome. He's like, I'm not even mad. He's like, I deserve it for showing you the line.
Ooh, I would be mad.
No,
at myself. At myself.
Our class on that Saturday race, the 4 or 5 cars in our class were within 200 yards of each other for 50 laps.
Yeah.
It was badass. It was an awesome Saturday race.
I love endurance racing. And part of that is that same thing that you talked about is the metronome thing, but it's playing with traffic. It's I don't care if I've turned the fastest lap time, but I want, like, if you add up 20 laps, I want to have the fastest 20 lap average, because traffic didn't slow me down, whether I'm passing or being passed. That's my whole goal in life, is to lose as little as possible when I'm passing or being passed.
Yeah, I'm still working on the strategizing of a pass with an underpowered car. I think that's an area where I could probably really improve, is doing that 5 corner setup. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
If I have an even power, I could probably make a pass, with a 2 corner setup, and I'm good there. But when I have to think about an MX5 and a 5 corner setup or a half a lap setup, I'm still working on that kind of racecraft strategy. But I'm having fun, and that's what's the most important thing. And I like getting trophies once in a while, but it's just go out, have fun, drive good, don't crash, and and that's it. It's good fun.
And anyone listening to this, or anyone listening anywhere to us, I guess, is if you're doing track day events, whether it's time trials or HPDE or autocross or whatever, some point go and get yourself in a AER, WRL, Champ Car, Lemons, I don't care. Go and do one of these low budget endurance races. You got to go and experience that. That is just, it's a whole different thing than driving by yourself.
Yeah, and the different series have totally different personalities too.
Correct.
Like Lemons, they really pack the field with traffic. Like they slow it down. I did a Lemons race that had 180 cars on the grid at Sonoma. It was like racing in the 405. Like it was so crazy. And then Chump Car will have about half that. And then about half the level of silliness too, where you'll find some silly cars and then some cars that are more sort of normal looking. I like AER because the cars have to look like cars, so your pictures, that you take home and show your friends, they don't look like you're racing in a fucking circus. It's like, oh, okay, there's your race car and it's surrounded by other race cars. All right, I got it. You're in a race. Okay, cool. You're not doing some like publicity stunt. So I like AER, and AER limits the field. I can't remember the number, if it's like 34 or 36 cars per mile of track.
Yeah.
Which is good, because then you're racing people, but you also get some open laps, and you're not going like 3 wide into every corner. That's kind of silly.
Well, and that's what I like about AER, WRL, I think, is at that same kind of level where they also have some standards for driving ability.
Some.
Yeah. Didn't you see my air quotes there?
Yeah, some.
Yeah.
The bad drivers think it's good driving, and the good drivers think it's bad driving.
Right.
But it's of the cheap car series. I have no experience with WRL. If someone's doing a race and wants to throw your boy a seat, I'd love to check it out. But I don't have any experience with it yet, but I think AER is the best of the cheap driving that I've seen.
Yep. Yeah. No, but go and experience it. Go wheel to wheel. It's a whole different experience. And I know some people are like, that's not quite for me. Go and give it a try. Just try it.
I'll tell you what, it makes a really big difference in going wheel to wheel, and more importantly, doing enough of it to where I'm no longer scared of it. That's a really big driving milestone. The first few wheel-to-wheel starts I took, I was really, really nervous about it. And when I got to a point that being on an active racetrack didn't make me scared, where I was confident to go drive the car very close to other cars, that was a big milestone. And I take a lot of that to driving on the street. I mean, there's a lot of the situational awareness that you have driving on a racetrack, when all cars are at their limits, and you're a foot or less away from them. I think that type of situational awareness is extremely helpful in your street. And I'm not suggesting you drive on the street like it's a racetrack, but just being at that level of readiness while driving for a 90-minute stint really does translate to your focus on the street.
Yeah. So with that, Matt, how about sharing your speed secret with listeners? What would be the one piece of advice you'd give drivers?
I think as far as driving talent goes, I have two. One is learn to heel toe. and more importantly, learn to be able to heel toe and adapt it to not just your car. I used to be the guy who thought that it was easy to heel toe in my car, but that every other car was, quote, hard. It's like, no, I just wasn't good enough to adapt to the other cars. Like, now there's no such thing as like a hard transmission anymore. It's just, does it take me 3 corners or 6 corners to adapt? And my other speed secret is that in order to master the art of weight transfer, which I think is pretty much everything when pushing car to the limit, you should learn how to ride a motorcycle. A car driver that is competent on a motorcycle should beat someone around a racetrack that isn't, because they know about front rear weight transfer.
That's interesting. That's I'd never heard that. I get it. I get it.
If you've never heard that, I must be way off, because you're the master of
No.
If I just have my own, either I'm a genius or a moron.
Well, no, I think it's genius because I totally get it. I mean, I also think that, there's a side of me that says everybody should ride a motorcycle on the street for a while because it'll make you a better car driver. Well,
that's a truth as well.
As long as you survive it.
Yeah. No, I'm not saying that everyone needs to go buy a motorcycle and become a biker, but I'm saying that if you have an opportunity to learn on a motorcycle, you will learn very quickly about front rear weight transfer because you have independent brakes. And having that knowledge base to bring back to sports car driving is extremely valuable.
Yeah. I'd say the other thing it does is it helps you understand even more so you can only get 100% out of a tire.
Oh, because, yeah.
You try to go into a corner with a lot of front brake on a motorcycle. You learn pretty quick that doesn't work.
Yeah, those 100 points add up quick on a bike.
Yeah, exactly. So, hey, Matt,
totally,
this has been fantastic. This has been big fun. We need to do it again, and I'm from down your way. I'll do it. I'd love to come and do a race with you guys at some point too. So that. Oh
my God,
really cool.
Please do. I'd love to have the cheater. I'd love to have an entirely cheater driver lineup. If I was the slowest guy on my team by 4 seconds a lap, like other people, like big burly men like me, would have a real problem with that, and I would find it frustrating if I couldn't bring my level up. But like, I'm so happy if I'm the slowest guy on a race team. Yeah, I am. You know what I mean? I like winning, and and I try hard. But like, if everyone's faster than me, like, we're probably gonna win. You know what I mean? Like, if I'm the worst driver on the team and we have a car that doesn't break, we are winning. So, that's anytime you have an opportunity to do a race with us, please do.
Yep, I will do that. So, hey, to follow you, the Smoking Tire, right?
Yeah, you can find everything at thesmokingtire.com except accurate YouTube view statistics.
Right.
YouTube, Instagram, the Smoking Tire podcast is on iTunes. It's also on YouTube. It's on anywhere you get podcasts. And you can find all of it from thesmokingtire.com.
Fantastic. Hey, Matt, thanks for your time. This has been really fun. And, keep doing what you're doing and keep having fun.
Thank you, Ross. Come see me in LA if you're in town.
I will do that. As you heard, Matt's The Smoking Tire YouTube channel is hugely popular, as is his podcast. And yeah, I have a ways to go to catch him, but honestly, that's not my goal. I'm just having fun sharing what I learn with you through what I do. But if you were to share this podcast with a friend and suggest that they listen to it on a regular basis, I wouldn't complain. Okay, I'm going to steal one of Matt's speed secrets and use it as my own. Learn to heel and toe and how to adapt to any car you drive. I know some drivers will think, hey, with paddle shift cars these days, we don't need to learn how to heel and toe. I disagree. Someday you're going to drive a car without paddle shifters. Well, I sure hope you do at least, because you learn more about driving when you understand how, and even more importantly, the why behind rev matching on downshifts. Obviously, I'm not going to go into teaching you how to heel and toe on this podcast. Audio only is not the best way to learn that, and I have other resources easily available to you that'll do that. The point that I want to drive home here is, and strongly, is that you must learn to heel and toe to be a great performance driver. No excuses. Hey, thanks for listening, and I'll talk to you again next week. Till then, keep learning and having fun.